Good afternoon, everyone. It's Gary here with Soccer Labs, and it's a Sunday afternoon, and typically we don't do any training, but I just came in because we have a special team coming in for a private session, and with this bad weather, it's just been difficult for people to get all the training in that they need. But the reason I wanted to shoot this video is because sometimes you get some really great insight from the kids when you're not asking them questions or you're not really probing for it. They just say these things, and it's that old saying out of the mouths of babes. So this week we had a couple situations, and I want to talk about the first one because there was this girl that came in for the first time, and we typically will do our skills and agility course to start with. You know, we'll do our speed work, our agility work, we'll do our strength work, and then we get more into the soccer and into the soccer speed and agility work. Well, as we start off, we're about halfway through, 3/4 of the way through our agility course, where we have ladders and speed hurdles and some other high stepping. And, you know, we make a whole combination of things as we do this to make it interesting and also to make it effective. So as we're about 3/4 of the way through, she gets back in line and she goes like, "Oh my God, these guys are so good at this." And she wasn't really saying it to me, she just said it around me, so I heard it. And I thought, well, yeah, that's because these kids are coming here all the time, and that's why they're so good. And you kind of forget how good these kids are getting as they come here until you get the new kids in, and you see what the difference is. And the difference is really dramatic. You know, the difference between the kids that come here and the kids that haven't come here is night and day noticeable. You see it visually. It's not just a matter of, can we put it on a stopwatch and try to get a 40 time that's a 1/10 or a 100th of a second difference. I mean, it is a noticeable difference between the kids that come here and the kids that don't. And when you get the new kids, well, then you notice it. Well, the second thing that happened was we had a full team come in, actually a couple full teams come in, because again, the weather was bad, and normally we're doing more individual training, but often we'll get full teams come in with the clubs or high schools. And we've had kids that come in here and then they go to their club, and then sometimes they break for the season or sometimes they stick with it, whatever. But in this case, it was a girl that had been here for about 2 or 3 months, and then she went and played basketball, and then she went and started her club season. Well, her club brought the whole team in. So back on the board, you can maybe see it behind the Ring of Fire. We always write down the scores. As we're doing the Ring of Fire, we write down the scores. We like to keep track of where they are. And also there's a progression that I like to run using their weak foot, using weak side rotation, then using their strong foot, then limiting their weak foot. And I like to show them statistically that their weak foot is actually really good once they start to use it. When we can get them to use both feet, when we can get them to use their strong foot and their weak foot, they become 2-footed soccer players, and a 2-footed soccer player is much better, much faster than a 1-footed soccer player. Well, after the whole thing was done, I mean, it was a lot of electricity in the air. It was a very high energy type session. I mean, things were just moving. I really wasn't paying attention to the board. But at the end, what I noticed was all the scores were up there, and guess who still had the high score? It was still the girl that had been here before. Maddie was still smoking all the other girls on her team, even though she hasn't been here for about 4 or 5 months. And that, I think, is a really important point. Not only do they get an advantage, not only do they gain a gap on the rest of the kids out on the field by coming here, the reality is they keep it. Okay, and that is so important because they get an advantage, they keep that advantage, and then they build on that advantage every single time they go to practice. So those are some really important things you need to think about when you're thinking about doing additional training like this. It's not just the next game or the next season or whatever next thing you might have in mind, whatever that reason is that you want to come in for training. They are going to get that gap. They are going to pick up that skill. They're going to keep it. They're going to build on it. And it's going to be something they keep forever. And when you go back to the board and you see 6 months later or 5 months later that they're still beating everybody because they have a higher skill, that's the evidence that you are doing something right. And that makes you feel really good. When you can take those kids, build them up, make them better, put a gap on the rest of the field, and then see it statistically later on, 4 or 5, 6 months when you're not really even looking for it, that's what it's all about. So anyhow, I have to get ready for this team that's coming in, and I just wanted to tell you about what we did this last week. When you have a chance, stop in, check out all the new updates we've gotten with Soccer Labs, and look for our new facility tour. I'll be putting that up because the last facility tour didn't really show what we are today. It shows what we were 6 months ago. And what we were 6 months ago is a lot different than what we are today. So look for that video as well. This is Gary with Soccer Labs, wishing you a great weekend and the rest of your Sunday. Bye now.